Welcome back to Arsenal News TV, and today we're going to look at 4 things spotted from the Gunners' 4-0 victory over Slavia Prague in the Europa League quarter-final second leg. So the first thing on the list is the Highlanders shine on the biggest stage. Going into the game against Slavia Prague, Arsenal had several injury concerns to cope with. Kieran Tierney and David Luiz were both definitely out with knee injuries, while doubts still remained over Martin Odegaard and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. 2 players Mikel Arteta would have been absolutely delighted to have to be available to call on though were Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe. Both youngsters were sensational on the night, but in different ways that made them impossible for Slavia Prague to deal with. Emile Smith-Rowe, who was millimetres away from getting his name on the score sheets, was crucial in making sure the Gunners were high up the pitch in a way that penned the Czech champions inescapably during the 6-minute first half blitz. Against Sheffield United, one of the key positives was how many men Arsenal were able to get forward to create a goal threat. And despite not starting that game, the England under-21 international was key in continuing that trend, averaging a position on the pitch comfortably higher than that of Alexandre Lacazette. Compare that to the gaps between the attack and the midfield during the dark days of November and December before Emile Smith-Rowe's introduction to the first team, and his impact is clear to see. Then there was Saka. He was back to the very best in the right wing position, where he had managed 11 goal contributions since Boxing Day. Slavia's left back Jan Baril really struggled against him in the first leg, but by adding more efficiency to his game, the 19-year-old was able to truly take advantage this time and put the Gunners firmly in control of the tie. Speaking after the game, Mikel Arteta expressed his delight that the 2 academy graduates were doing it on the first team scene when it truly mattered. For me, it's a joy to watch them play, to watch them every day in training, how they behave, the passion, the commitment they have for the club, and then how much they like to play football. He said, "You have to let them express, and then you have to give them certain work frames to work and some ideas of how they can exploit their qualities. Then it's up to them, and I thought both of them were really good today." It shouldn't be a surprise that the 2 Highlanders were so reliable in a clutch situation for Arsenal, given how frequently they have performed at this point. At just 19 and 20 respectively, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe are undoubtedly the Gunners' future, but if Mikel Arteta needs them, there's no doubting that they can do it in the present. So the next thing on the list is Mikel Arteta hints at his preferred centre-back pairing. While Arsenal were blistering in attack, what Mikel Arteta may well have been most pleased by was how impressive his team were at the back. Granted, Slavia offered very little going forward, and it was clear with the triple substitution the Slavia Prague manager made at half-time that they had given up by the break. But the fact that they had 61% possession and managed 0 shots on target suggests that the Gunners' defensive display was of a very high level as well. Before the game, many were expecting Mikel Arteta to tinker with his back 4 once again. Throughout the past few weeks, it has tended to be the case that the Spaniard has fleeted between different defensive lineups depending on the competition Arsenal were playing in, with Callum Chambers and Pablo Mari having come into the backline in place of Hector Bellerin and Gabriel Magalhaes, and Granit Xhaka having filled in at left back for Cedric Soares against Sheffield United. The expectation was that the Gunners would revert to the defence who had played the home leg against Slavia Prague at the Emery Stadium. And yet, Mikel Arteta pulled a surprise by sticking with the exact same back 4 that had played at Bramall Lane, and perhaps most interestingly, the same 2 central defenders. Of the many centre-back partnerships we have seen this season, Pablo Mari's pairing with Rob Holding has proved the most successful in terms of points per game. The Gunners averaged 2.4 with those 2 at the back, compared to just 1.7 with Gabriel Magalhaes and David Luiz. It's interesting that this is the case given that both were arguably second choice on their respective sides of central defence, but with continually solid displays, they are making a strong case to be the regular starting duo. Special praise needs to go to Pablo Mari though. On the night, he was making his first ever appearance in a European knockout game, managed to complete 93% of his passes, made 6 clearances and won 100% of his aerial duels. The two's unexpected partnership is almost reminiscent of the Laurent Koscielny per Mertesacker duo that formed in the 2012-13 season, in spite of the fact that Thomas Vermaelen was widely viewed as the club's best centre-back at the time. Speaking after the game, Mikel Arteta seemed to hint that Rob Holding and Pablo Mari were going to be given a run of games together from now on, emphasising the importance of consistency in the defensive units. You need somebody at the back to make those players better and to get those surroundings and the collective understanding the way it should be, he said. The same happened with the back line. I think today we looked really solid. I don't think we conceded a shot on target. That's merit from a little bit of continuity as well, and a little bit of help and understanding in these moments. It's harsh on Gabriel Magalhaes and David Luiz, who have both looked excellent at moments this season, but at this time of the season, there can be no room for sentimentality in the Arsenal team selection. So the next thing on the list is Granit Xhaka excels again. It was something of a shock that Granit Xhaka was chosen to play at left back once again against Slavia Prague. The Swiss international has done a fine job filling in there in Kieran Tierney's absence at Sheffield United, but after the game, Mikel Arteta had seemed to infer that it was a decision made specifically with the threat that the Blades had to offer in mind. And yet, with another solid display, the Swiss international began to add more weight to the argument that he could be a solution in the position until Kieran Tierney makes his return. Again, the role he played was relatively withdrawn, operating largely to the left or the centre circle inside his own half, but he was still able to heavily influence the game from this area. Granit Xhaka managed 12 ball recoveries on the night, despite not being in his usual central midfield position, which is more than double anyone else on the team. Despite not being in the middle of the park, the Swiss was able to lead the team as well and could be heard barking orders at nicolas Pepe in moments where the Ivorian switched off defensively. It was not all negative shouts at nicolas Pepe though, and after the 25-year-old's opener, Granit Xhaka was the first one to sprint across yelling, "Yes, nice one," in and amongst his celebrating teammates. Speaking after the game, the 28-year-old admitted his new position is far from where he views himself, ideally in the side, but also expressed his desire to sacrifice personal preference if it was for the good of the team. "If we win the Europa League like this, I don't care which position I play," he said after the game. "If I have to help the team there, I have to help. I'm the guy who will do everything for the team. Of course, everyone knows it's not my regular position, but with the teammates, they help me and the coach me as well, in front and behind. I'm so happy I helped the team in this position as well. I try my best, and in the last two games it was a good performance. Against Fulham, Granit Xhaka may well be moved back into his usual central midfield berth, but his admirable willingness to do what's required for the good of his teammates is exactly why countless managers continue to select him despite the protestations of Arsenal fans. So the final thing on the list is Unai Emery reunion is on. Sound the narrative klaxon as Arsenal have drawn perhaps the juiciest possible Europa League tie available to them in the form of a reunion with former manager Unai Emery. The Spaniard is now in charge of Villarreal, where after an impressive start to the season in La Liga, things have tailed off, with European qualification next season now looking something of an uphill battle for the Yellow Submarine. But one thing that remains the same is Unai Emery's uncanny ability to succeed in the competition, where he finds himself matched against his former side. Speaking after the semi-final lineup had been confirmed, Mikel Arteta admitted he was excited by the prospect of the reunion, but wary of the challenge his predecessor's excellent Europa League record posed to this Arsenal side. "Yes, it will be a tough game," Mikel Arteta said. "Villarreal are a top side and Unai is the most successful manager in this competition. So we now enjoy tonight. We're going to have time to prepare that one and no time to prepare Fulham on Sunday, and this is where we are." For his part, Unai Emery was keen to stress that he's looking forward to the reunion with his former employers, but there will surely be some form of revenge on his mind. "We want to continue to play our way, always respecting our rival and not speculating anything," Unai Emery said of the prospect of facing Arsenal. we need to play to win and go into the match with the same sincerity that we're currently showing. Some may also point to the slightly less glamorous Francis Coquelin reunion that will be coming when Villarreal make their way to the Emirates at the end of this month. But there can be no doubting that Unai Emery's return will be dominating column inches for weeks to come. So these are 4 things spotted in the Gunners' 4-0 victory over Slavia Prague. But other than that guys, remain blessed. Take you for the next video and peace.